I'm not necessarily saying that you should start pestering, like your 50-year-old friend to come help you move heavy furniture with you. You can decide on that for yourself. Well, my family just moved a few weeks ago, and like any good systems nerd who loves efficiencies and loves to learn, I read numerous blog posts and even a whole book about moving tips. So I'm going to share some of the very best tips with you in some video clips that I filmed throughout our moving process coming up here. But actually, a lot of these tips I came up with totally on my own, so you're not going to find them anywhere else. And honestly, I think they're kind of genius, but you tell me. And if we haven't met, I'm Diana Kerr. I'm a certified professional life coach for go-getter Christian women. So if that's your jam, hit subscribe so you don't forget about this channel and miss out on more efficiency tips for gals who love Jesus. And just as a little secret, my very best content is for those who are on my email list. So click the link for that below. I'll send you my favorite decluttering questions, a little guide that I created totally free. Tip number 1 is before you start packing up your kitchen, grab some Post-its and write out every category of item in your kitchen, like mugs, glasses, cookie sheets, pots and pans, large utensils. Write out all those Post-its, and then before you start unpacking all your stuff at your new house, take the Post-its, lay them all, I did this in our current house, and then I brought them over here, I laid them all out on the counter, and then I basically put together the puzzle piece of where I was gonna put each thing in our kitchen. And this was so helpful because I could move things around, and I was just moving Post-it notes instead of actually moving things. And granted, I might still end up moving some things once we kind of figure out how we live, but this was incredibly helpful. Tip number 2 is to pack certain things in a use it or lose it fashion. So these are household items that we just need like indefinitely. And these are things that as we were packing them, we were like, we're not 100% sure that we're gonna need this stuff. We didn't want to throw it out because there's a very legitimate chance that we would. However, I did not want to mix that stuff in with everything else. And then, 10 years from now, it's still mixed in and buried in the garage and in various places in my house. So that's why that bin says discard if not used by July 2022. So I'm giving myself 1 year to either use that stuff, and if I find like, we didn't need that outlet cover or that hook or whatever, then that stuff is gonna go. Tip number 3 brought to you by my 4-year-old Harry, who's filming me right now. Thank you, Harry. Amazon bubble mailers are amazing. All these mailers that you get in the mail, save these things, especially the big ones. You can literally slide a plate in. They're so good for being able to just pack things really, really quickly. Tip number 4. Oh yeah, tip number 4 I'm here for. Tip number 4 is to choose a positive attitude about moving. To tell yourself that stress is a choice. You get to choose what you're gonna tell yourself about this move. And for most people, this is definitely true in our case, we are choosing to move. We're not being forced to move. We want to. And so any stress from this, essentially we brought it on ourselves. And we've been trying so hard, Kyle and I, this whole move to stay positive, focus on the good stuff, not get too worked up about the hard stuff. And just remember, we can change our story about this and we don't have to be stressed. I cannot tell you how many people have been like, oh my gosh, moving with kids is so stressful. And we just kind of decided from the beginning, we're just not gonna choose that narrative. We're not gonna choose to view it as stressful. And it's amazing. We have really not felt that stressed. Tip 5 is to label your stuff as you pack it for the room that it's going to go in at your new house. So obviously a lot of things are gonna go from, your primary bedroom to your primary bedroom or your kitchen to your kitchen, right? But sometimes something that you kept in your office at home is now gonna be kept in your kid's bedroom, I don't know. So as you're labeling stuff, obviously the more that you can put things together that are gonna go into one room, it's gonna make packing a lot quicker because you're opening a box and emptying the contents into that room in your new house. But then also, as you're packing, try to be thinking of putting the things together in the room that they're gonna go in at the new house, not necessarily be packing them based on the room that they're coming out of at your current house. Speaking of rooms and marking your boxes, put a Post-it up on rooms, especially bedrooms in your house, so that your movers know exactly which rooms to go to if they're reading boxes, or if you're telling them, oh, that dresser goes in the primary bedroom, they know exactly where that is. Tip number 6, if people offer to help you, yes. Your answer is yes. I'm not necessarily saying that you should start pestering, like your 50-year-old friend to come help you move heavy furniture with you. You can decide on that for yourself. We did decide to hire movers basically to move the big stuff for us. But so many people have offered to help us, and I'm not someone who loves to accept help, but I said yes to every single person. And no one person's contribution was that insane or difficult for them. It was, maybe helping me pack up the kitchen for an hour and a half, or watching our kids for a couple of hours, or dropping off a crock pot meal. Like, none of those things were giant for the person who did that. We didn't ask anyone to give up, 12 hours of their Saturday to help us move, for example. But all of those things added up just have made such a huge difference, especially having people who could just come over and take the kids to the park for an hour where I could just speed pack. So if people offer to help, let them help you. This is part of being part of the body of Christ, is realizing that we can and we get to and we have to lean on each other sometimes. And it makes people feel good to help. And when your friend or your family member or your neighbor is in a similar situation, you're gonna be right there for them to help them. Tip number 7, for those people who are offering to help you, and for anyone else who you might be paying for services, cleaning or painting, contractors, movers, take good care of those people. Those people are a blessing, and you are so blessed to have those people in your life and to help you make your move more smooth. Think about what might make things feel better for them, what might make their experience better. Even just food and drinks can go a long way. We had a couple of different contractors here in the house. I had a note on the fridge for them, a thank you note, and to help themselves to anything in the fridge. And so we had a bunch of Gatorade, which they clearly very much liked. And this whole thing was full of bottled water, LaCroix, and then we had a bunch of individual bags of chips. I'm not saying that that's super impressive or anything crazy. We're Christians. Let's show God's love to people. Let's love people. Let's just do that little extra thing. And I know when you're moving, you're swamped, but doing things for other people actually helps you feel like you have more time. There's actually science behind that. You feel more time abundance and less time scarcity when you serve others. Now, granted, when you're moving, you don't have gobs and gobs of time. So I'm not saying that you should cook a gourmet meal for your contractor staff of 12 people, but do what you can, especially if you have kids. Show them what it's like to take good care of people and treat people well. We had a fun idea with the guy who is doing our wood floors. His name's Dan, and he works so hard. He's an immigrant from Romania, and he's got 2 little kids who are about the same age as my kids, and he decided to work all the way through the weekend. He was at this house pretty much straight for 6 days. Not because we were putting pressure on him on a deadline, but he just wanted to get it done. So we knew that he was gonna be away from his kids. He wasn't even gonna be home for the weekend. So we went to the grocery store, and my 4-year-old Harry picked up some popsicles, and we brought those over to the house here while he was working on stuff, and we put them in the freezer. We were like, Dan, these are some popsicles for you to take home and just enjoy with your kids. We're super, super thankful that you're working so hard on our home. It means so much to us. Tip 8 is, especially if you have to get out in a hurry on your actual moving day, to have boxes and bins, containers ready for the stuff that is gonna have to be packed up last minute, like bedding or curtains in bedrooms if you have blackout shades, and last minute kitchen things, last minute bathroom things. So I set aside all of these boxes and bins so that tomorrow morning, when it's moving day and we're trying to get out of here quickly and be efficient with our time and steward our money well, not have the movers here longer than necessary, I already have boxes ready to throw things in, and they're already labeled and with the contents and the room that they will go to in the new house. Tip number 9 is start a box right away. Have a folder in that box of things that you are going to be leaving behind for the next owner. Obviously there might be some bigger stuff like cans of paint, but this is something actually that, like, as I was putting this together, especially with a file folder, I realized, like, from now on in my homes, I am going to keep the papers that I would pass on to the next owner all in one place, so that if and when I move, I don't have to go through all my files and pull out, you know, the manual for the oven and this information about paint colors and this information about our basement floor warranty, whatever. So keep all of that stuff that relates to that property that you would leave behind in one spot. Tip number 13, also brought to you by Harry's filming skills, is to put stuff on the curb rather than try to sell it, donate it. Granted, yes, sometimes it's good to do those things. We did both of those things while we were moving, but you are under a time crunch when you're moving, and not everything can be important. Like making as much money selling your stuff as possible and getting rid of every item to the very most perfect person. And so sometimes I just put stuff on the curb and I say, God, I'm just trusting that this item will get into the hands of someone who needs it. And I mean, goodness knows, I have stuff in my house that came from the side of the road and I love it. So who's to say that someone else might not be super excited and super blessed by the stuff that I'm putting on there? Tip number 11 is to choose one area of your house if possible that can be a little bit more crazy and messy and have your packing supplies. This is all stuff that people have just given us. This area is like boxes and containers that are available. It helps so much, especially if you're like me and like clutter and mess gets to you really easily. It helps so much to, like, obviously you're moving, so your house isn't gonna be perfect. It's gonna be a little crazy, but it helped me so much to have just one main area, this fourth of our basement, that was kind of like the crazy space and it could be messy, and then kind of contain it to that area. Tip number 12, I cannot say this enough. If you are blessed at all to have any option of having overlapping time between both houses, my friend, please, please take it. When we had an accepted offer on this house, we were able to carry 2 mortgages at once. We were approved to have 2 mortgages at once. And so we were just looking, and we knew once we get an accepted offer on a house, then we would list our house. And so as soon as our offer got accepted, our realtor was like, okay, you know, we've got a few days, let's get your house on the market this coming weekend. Like, it got accepted Saturday night, and we were gonna try to get pictures on like Tuesday or Wednesday and then list the house. And we were like, oh my gosh, okay, that feels very overwhelming. And as we thought about it, there really was no reason to be so rushed, because there was no way that we were gonna be able to line up the closing days anyway. And so anyway, all that to say, we ended up, we should have had like a week and a half overlapping between this house and the next one, but then the people who lived here moved out early, which was such a blessing. Thank you, Lord. So we were able to have 3.5 weeks overlapping, which was incredible. We were able to get the floors refinished. We were able to get everything painted, and all of that is done. All the work we want to do for now is done. And so we were also able to start bringing in, we were able to like pack and do that slowly. And so if you are moving locally and you are at all able to have a little bit of time where you overlap and you can like get some of the work done in the house, like painting, and start to slowly bring stuff in and even maybe unpack it as you're bringing it in. I mean, I really have not felt stressed this move. And a move with a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old is no small thing, but the fact that obviously like we're local and the fact that we've had this overlapping time has made such a difference. It's allowed me to slowly rip off the Band-Aid of like, okay, we're leaving this house and now this is our new house, because we've just been like slowly taking the stuff out of our old house and then slowly moving it into this house. This house is already starting to feel like home and feel more comfortable. And you know, all that to say, like, okay, it costs, you're paying taxes. Well, like technically we don't own our old house anymore, but so for 2 weeks we were paying taxes on 2 homes and technically had a mortgage on 2 homes and all that. But I mean, a mortgage is not like rent. It's not money totally out the window. So it does cost a tiny bit, but it was one of those things, like my husband and I were like, okay, God has blessed us with the financial ability, and because He has made us very good stewards of our money, this is an option we have for basically a few $100s. We can make this way less stressful. And so if you are at all able to do that, you steward the money that God has given you, invest it in reducing the stress and the chaos of your move and being able to have a more peaceful, gradual transition. So worth it. Tip 13 is to spend some time praying over your rooms and envisioning the kind of person that you want to be and what you feel God's will and desires might be for you and for your family and your people in those spaces. I know that sounds so cheesy, but I came over here one day. I was just feeling a lot of feelings with moving, and I was just kind of trying to like plow through because there's so much to do. And I realized, like, stop. I just need some time to process and just feel my feelings. And so I came over here and moved from room to room and just sat in each room for a few minutes and looked around and prayed and just wrote down some things that came to mind of what I envisioned for those spaces. Even if you don't do that, as I've been like cleaning or unpacking in rooms, I've been thinking about what I envision for that space, and I've been praying and asking God to like bless our meals here, bless our conversation, bless the work that I do in this office, God, like bless the food that we're gonna make and help us make nourishing choices with the food that we're gonna eat in this kitchen and all that kind of stuff. Tip number 14 is give yourself space to feel the feels. Like, let yourself feel the sadness, let yourself cry. If you're feeling sad about moving, it means that you were very blessed in your current house, neighborhood, job. And so celebrate and thank God for the fact that you're sad to move. I'm sure some people when they move are completely thrilled and not sad at all. I have been so sad. I have been crying so much for so many reasons. And I realized it's because God's been so good to us. There's like that cheesy saying, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. Well, I'm gonna say you can do both. Cry because it's over and smile because it happened. Tip number 15, my final tip, is to think about the things that you wanna do before you leave your house. Neighbors you wanna say bye to or do things with, favorite restaurants that you wanna walk to. We made sure that we went to our favorite Mexican restaurant, that we walked to the zoo, that we went to our favorite park, our favorite coffee shop, all that stuff. And even make a list if you want to. You might even want to get as nerdy as making a list of things that you want to make sure you have pictures of, just like everyday things that you do in your house that you normally don't photograph, like putting your kids to bed or breakfast together as a family. I can't believe I forgot, like, probably the best moving tip of all is just to have less stuff to move in the first place. So I have a couple really fun resources to help you with that and things that I literally used, well, before we even started moving and then also in the process of moving to help me get rid of stuff. So whether you're moving or not, look for the links to that below and it's gonna be super helpful.